Booking sales calls is hard enough. Not screwing them up once you're on them is even harder. Most people are actually blowing deals during the call without even realize it. I've coached hundreds of sellers in my 10 plus years in sales across dozens of different companies and industries, and the same five mistakes are coming up over and over and over again. And in this video, I'm breaking them down and showing you exactly how to fix them so you can stop wasting calls and start closing more deals. Now, let's jump into mistake number one, and that is no prep. So, what do I mean by no prep? So, when we think about prep, prep is if you're walking into calls without any prep, you're walking into what I like to call an ambush, right? I've walked into calls thinking, hey, I can figure this out on the fly and crashed and burned hard. One time the prospect even opened up with, so what do you know about us? And I froze like a deer in headlight. So when you don't do that prep, right? What happens when you don't do that prep? You look like an amateur, right? You lose credibility. And if you're like me, sometimes you lose it in the first 5 minutes. So most sellers think prep means a ton of research, hours of research and poring over everything you can find on the internet. Wrong. You need as little as just 5 or 10 minutes of smart, targeted research. And I actually like the 3x3 framework. So when you think about prep and the 3x3 framework, before the call, you're going to grab three things. You're going to grab three facts. You're going to grab three questions. And then you're going to grab three ideas. Okay, this is the 3x3 framework. And if you can do this well, this really can help with your pre-call research, right? Three facts about them, fun facts, right? What's unique about them, their location, background, experience, news, something noteworthy. What stands out? Go to their LinkedIn, go to their website, go to their social media. What's standing out? Find those three fun facts about them. Next, three questions. What do you need to ask them in order to better understand their situation? And then finally, three ideas. How might you help or solve or add some value? But what are three ideas that you're going to try to share with them, right? If you can take 5 or 10 minutes and do this 3x3 before the call, you can make sure that you're never walking in blind like I did. All right. Number two, biggest mistake that I see is no agenda. Oh, and I can hear everybody's eyes rolling right now. Agenda, sales calls, agenda. That's boring. That's lame. But are you starting your calls without a clear agenda? Are you making this mistake? Because congrats, you just handed the keys to the car over to them, and now they're trying to drive the conversation. And typically they drive it like a distracted teenager with no clear direction. Okay. And I used to show up and just chat, right? I've done that before. Their pet, the weather, Lord knows what, you know? And then what happens? You run out of time. The call ends with little to no progress. And people think, what I've heard is reps say, oh, and sellers say, oh, well, just, agendas kind of kill the vibe. They don't sound natural. They don't feel authentic. They don't feel like me. Well, that's a cop because agendas can save the call. They can keep you on track and they actually end up making you look like a pro. So I want you to use this simple acronym to get started with solid agendas. It's the word frame, okay? If you can frame up the call at the beginning and do these five things, you're going to firm up timing. Timing is the first thing, right? You got to have clear timing on how long you're actually going to be speaking. The R is the reason for the conversation, reason that this call matters. The A is for the agenda. Pretty self-explanatory. What are we going to talk about? Then you're going to merge their ideas. Hey, anything you want to cover today? And then finally, we got to have our exit plan, right? By the end of this call, we're going to take one of two directions, right? Those are the things, those are the five things. If you can do these five things well, this really helps to solve for this no agenda. Firm timing, reason for the call, agenda, merge their ideas, and an exit plan. Now you're well on your way. Let's go to number 3 on the list. Number 3 biggest mistakes I hear in sales calls is weak discovery. Weak discovery, or heck, no discovery. Right? Weak discovery. And what do I mean by that? Bad discovery isn't just lazy, it's actually dangerous. It's how you end up pitching the wrong thing. And I've been there, especially with an inbound lead. We all love those. Oh, we got an inbound. They raise their hand, right? They come to you, they raise their hand. You're thinking, great, I can skip over all the basics. I don't need an agenda, don't need to prep, don't need discovery. I'm just going to assume everything and keep on rolling. And guess what happens? You end up pitching the wrong thing. You end up pitching stuff they don't even care about. And they smile and they nod, and then afterwards they vanish, right? Those deals end up in no man's land. So here's the shift. Here's what I want you thinking about. Good discovery isn't just about running down a checklist. It's about getting curious. It's about staying curious, finding out what actually matters to them, not just what you think matters. Because the sellers that do discovery well, they ask better questions, they listen better, and they resist that urge to jump in with solutions too early. So if you don't know where to start, you can always try these 3 questions. Hey, what's the biggest thing you're trying to solve right now? Hey, why is this important to fix right now versus later? Hey, what's been working or not working when you tried to solve this problem before? If you don't fix this week discovery, your sales calls are going to fall flat. All right, let's move on to number 4. The number 4 biggest mistake I see is selling too soon. And this picks up very nicely off of that discovery. But if we sell too soon, this is a big no-no because you're pitching before they're even ready. Even if you know what to pitch, the when matters just as much as the what. And I've definitely been guilty of this. Once on a cold call, I briefly explained what our software did and immediately started pitching for the meeting before I even asked or understood anything about them or their situation. Their reaction, caught off guard, call went off the rails, and with the classic, oh, I'm running to a meeting, just send me an email, which we all know just deals end up in email purgatory there. So what happened? I lost their trust before I even had a shot at earning it. Because if you come across as too pushy or too desperate, prospects start pulling away, even if you're offering the right solution, even if you're offering something they might be interested in. Most sellers think that selling equals talking, when selling actual equals timing. Selling equals timing. It's about knowing how to time our pitch, knowing how to time those right questions, knowing how to time when we're supposed to listen versus when we're supposed to talk. And where does this actually happen? It happens all over the place. It can happen on cold calls, first time we're talking to somebody, inbound leads if you're assuming too much. Because the shift is you got to hold back that pitch, even if you think, oh man, they're ready, until you've clearly laid out the problem and they've shown that they want help. A good pitch lands better when they're already leaning forward, not when you're still earning their trust. So make sure you don't sell too soon. Selling is all about timing. Number 5, biggest mistake I've seen is when you have no next steps. No next steps. We've all heard the best time to book a call is while you're still on a call, right? The next call. The best time to book the next call is while you're still on a call. So if you end a call without next steps, you just hit pause on your own deal. And I've ended great calls with, hey, I'll follow up with you next week. And then you get ghosted. Why? Because there's no clear path. And what ends up happening is you lose momentum, the deal fades, and some sellers think like, oh, well, they're going to reach out if they're interested in it. Yeah, right. You own the follow-up, and it starts with setting the frame like we covered in number 2. Remember, we talked about the exit plan. The exit plan are the next steps. It's driving those next steps at the end of every call. So how do you actually fix this? You've got to make sure that you leave 5 minutes, first of all. If you don't have the time, then you're never going to have clear next steps, and you're never going to address that exit plan. So make sure you leave yourself the time. You're always going to run out of your time. How many times have you had a call in with like, oh, no, looks like we've only got a minute left, and I'll shoot you an email, and then we'll figure it out, and yeah, that was great. What is that next step? Who knows? But once you have the time, you have to make the time, and then you've got to simply lay out the most logical next step based on where you think things should go next. Remember, you are the expert. You are the guide. So it could sound something like this. So typically when we've had a good conversation like this, I've learned a lot about your situation. I'd love to schedule another call for the next couple of days where we can kind of go into more detail about your situation, really talk through some of those problems that we hinted at, and figure out if this might be an opportunity for us to help a little bit further. Are you open to scheduling that 30-minute call now? Because tomorrow afternoon, maybe tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon, which works better for you? If not, we could look at later in the week. You got to give yourself that time, right? You're the expert, you're the guide. So give yourself the time and then guide the prospect to a clear, logical next step. And those are the 5 mistakes I wish I'd stop making sooner on sales calls. Give these a try on your next call and drop a comment below on how it worked.